UFC 305, it's a fantastic fucking card. It's this weekend. I'm going to be breaking down the main card, giving you guys my predictions, how much money I'm going to lose, my thoughts, and the breakdown of the main card. We're going to be starting with the main event, the great main event of dricus du Plessis versus Israel Adesanya. Everyone's saying Adesanya. I don't like it. It's kind of cringy. And then we're going to be going down to the opener as last as jingliang takes on Carlos Prates. All right, so getting just straight into the main event, right? I'm going with du Plessis. I noticed that a lot of people in the community, a lot of fans are going with Israel Adesanya. They don't like dricus. A lot of them don't like Izzy either. It seems to be a battle of the dislikable. I personally am a fan of both. I like dricus. I like Izzy. I don't fucking know him, but you know, whatever. I'm a fan of both guys, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on dricus. I think a lot of people are overlooking him, and I'm not really sure why. The guy is undefeated in the UFC. He has finishes over Derek Brunson, Darren Till, Robert Whitaker, soak that in, please, and Sean Strickland. So he's a great resume, and I know Izzy does as well. Arguably the second, maybe third. No, he's the second greatest middleweight of all time. You know, and when you're going against a guy of such caliber like Izzy, you know, he's always going to be a threat. Even though he's coming off of the 11-month layoff, I feel like this card is coming off. A lot of the fighters on the main card are coming off layoffs. You have Kai Kara France been out over a year. Jingliang been out over a year. You have Dan Hooker been out over a year, you know? And Israel Adesanya is another one. And I think, here's how I think the fight's going to go. I think dricus is going to win via decision, right? I think dricus is going to take over the later half of the fight. You know, I think Izzy's going to come out looking great in the first round or two, and he's going to be looking for that finish, especially after all the hype, but you know, the resentment he has with this guy, and also just being gone for the 11 months, you know, and it's contender Izzy now, which means he's going to be looking crazy. And I really do think, though, in the first round or two, we are going to be seeing that side of him. I wouldn't word it as like contender Izzy, but you know, he's going to be looking for the finish, and I think dricus is just going to overtake the fight around, you know, after round two, maybe even in round two. I'm not saying the fight's not going to be competitive. I think this is a really hard fight to predict. I mean, look at the odds. I think Izzy's a minus 135 and dricus is a plus 115, and who knows, as the days go by, that might get closer and closer, as if it isn't fucking close enough. But look, man, I think dricus has some advantages here. I think dricus has the ground game advantage. I think he puts on a lot of pressure, which is kind of a nightmare for Adesanya, someone who really likes to be tactical, really likes to be patient, you know, sometimes overly patient, sometimes overly tactical, but that's kind of his style. That's his mojo, especially as champion, right? Dricus loves to put on the pressure. He's always looking for the finish. There wasn't a second in that Sean Strickland fight. Say what you want about it. There wasn't a moment where dricus wasn't looking for that finish, you know, and we saw as the fight progressed, man, like he's throwing shots with everything he's fucking got, you know, metaphorically, but you know what I'm saying. I think the outcome of this fight is greatly going to depend on what kind of Izzy we get. I think if this is the Izzy, right, and you know, it's hard to say because everyone's comparing, like, if this is the Izzy that we saw years ago, if this is contender Izzy, you know, that guy is dead forever. That guy is gone forever. You know, now that he is a contender doesn't take back all of his years on top, all of his years being one of the company stars, all of his years being champion. You know, he could be super amped up, super motivated for this fight, super driven. I'm sure he is, but that doesn't necessarily bring him back to the mindset he had years ago. And I'm not saying he needs it to beat dricus. You know what I mean? Izzy's great. But I think this is the Izzy that we saw, you know, in the Jerry Cannonier fight, or we saw him in the Yoel Romero fight, and both fights, you know, I just think, you know, a bit overly tactical, a bit overly patient, very slow. You can't do that with a guy like dricus, you know, and who knows, and we saw it in the Strickland fight as well. The Strickland fight arguably the most so, you know, he just couldn't find his rhythm in there, and you can't do that against a guy like dricus, because dricus is going to be looking for that finish. Even though he has the ground advantage, I don't think he's going to take it there as much as people think. I think he's going to stand and bang with Izzy, and I think he can fucking hold his own, man. If we get the Izzy right that we've seen to show ruthless aggression, if we get the Izzy that has a nice mix of being tactical and yet making all of his shots really count, you know, laying on that power. It's how he took out Pereira, you know, he kind of teased him against the cage and then boom, boom. I'm not saying you could do that with a guy like dricus. I think that worked against Pereira, but I don't think that's going to, you know, work against dricus, but who fucking knows, man? I think this fight greatly just depends on what kind of Izzy we're going to get. His keys to victory, like I said, keeping the pressure on him, especially in the later rounds, landing the right shots, using volume and high output, and, of course, avoiding the ground. And dricus, I think he's going to be more in this fight mentally. I think he's the hungrier guy. He's the younger guy. Sorry, that sounds like I said the same fucking word. He's the hungrier guy and the younger guy. I think he's riding a bit more momentum right now, whereas Izzy is 2-2 in his last 4, again, against great competition, but, you know, it is what it is. This is going to be a great fight. I think there's a lot of question marks around Izzy right now that we're hopefully and probably going to get answered. I think, but I'm going to go with du Plessis by decision. I think he has a bit more of the advantages right now. Up next, a co-main that I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on. I know it's easy to just shit on flyweights, but we have Kai Kara-France versus Steve Erceg. I'm going with Steve Erceg. You know, he arguably could be the fucking champion right now. He's been a lot more active. You know, again, the last time Kara fought was a really, really close fight against Amir Albazi. He arguably won that fight, but that was, I believe, over a year and a half ago. It's been a long time since we've seen Kai last in the cage. I'm not really sure why that is. I wish I could tell you. But the point is he's been gone, and Erceg has fought about 4 times since the last time that Kara-France has fought. I believe 3 or 4 times. It might be 4, which is his entire UFC career, you know. And both these guys are good for the division. You know, they don't have the biggest aura or whatever, but they put on entertaining fights. You know what I mean? They both have finishing power, which is great, especially at flyweight. That's rare, you know, for both guys to have that potential knockout power. This is great, and I think it's a great matchup. I think it's really intriguing that it's at 5 rounds. I'm not exactly sure who that favors because we've seen Kara kind of go the distance, but we've also seen Erceg perform fantastic against Pantoja for 5 rounds. And I think he's going to learn his lesson from that, especially how he handled the 5th round. And I think he realized, you know, that ultimately cost him the fight, how he treated that 5th round. Erceg has the momentum right now. You know, he's been more active. He's been around. He's coming off that really close fight, which he could have been the champion. But Kara's always dangerous. You know, Kara-France is always going to be dangerous, and I think Erceg does have the advantage on the ground, but Kara has fantastic takedown defense, and we've seen that in his past few fights. You know, and Kara's going to bring the good kicks, and he needs to keep that fight on the feet. And I think this is going to be kind of a stand and bang kind of brawl. And again, I think it's great that this is 5 rounds, but Kara's going to want to keep this fight on the feet, implement his kicks, and again, utilize that takedown defense. You know, I think the lack of activity, though, is going to hurt him. You know, I think guys like Izzy, I don't think it's going to affect him as bad, and I don't think guys like Hooker, it's going to, but, you know, Kara, this is, I believe, the longest kind of layoff of his career, and against a guy like Erceg, young, hungry, not that, you know, Kara-France isn't, but Erceg, I think, has the advantages here. I think he has the ground advantage. We saw that against Pantoja. He performed well, and I think Pantoja as a whole, that was a learning experience for him. And I think Erceg's going to outstrike him. I think he's going to really bust him up on the feet. Not that Kara isn't always dangerous, and not that Kara doesn't want to keep this fight standing. He fucking does, dude. But I think Erceg's going to outstrike him. And I think when it does come to the ground and the grappling exchanges, I think Erceg is going to have the slight advantage in that too. Look, man, this is going to be a great fight. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on it. It's not really being talked about that much. I love that it's 5 rounds. Love that it's getting the attention of the co-main. And my final pick is going to be Steve Erceg. Mateusz Gamrot versus Dan Hooker. All right, man. I'm really hoping Dan wins. My gut and my heart are doing that thing where you kind of know the other guy has a better advantage and he's probably going to take the fight. But you don't know if it's being a fan of the guy or it's this gut feeling. My gut's saying Dan, but my mind and my logic is saying Gamrot. There's a lot of guys that Gamrot has been beating in the lightweight division the past few years, and he's barely lost. And I don't think one of those losses is going to come from Dan Hooker, unfortunately. Unfortunately, man. You know, Gamrot just keeps finding ways to win, man, even when it's close. You know, the Fiziev fight was bullshit. He won via injury. The Tsarukyan fight was very controversial. You know, he got the win over Tsarukyan, but that was a really, really close fight. Most people thought Tsarukyan won. He had a less close, but still a close fight against Jalen Turner, but he put it on him a bit more in that. Gamrot finds ways to win, man. And especially, you know, his last performance, he got dropped by RDA, but he gets dropped a few times in his career, you know, and there was nothing fantastic on the feet from Gamrot, but man, he really implemented that wrestling. That's how we got the win, and I think this is going to be that kind of performance. I think there's going to be all right moments from Gamrot on the feet. I definitely don't think he's going to be knocking out a guy like Dan Hooker, but I think in his mind he's going to be trying to avoid the stand and bang as much as possible, which is what Hooker needs. Hooker needs to make this a dogfight. He needs to put on the pace. He needs to put on the pressure. He needs to make it a dogfight. Keep it off of the ground. And Hooker has shown to have good takedown defense, you know. And it seems that, you know, his career, it seemed at first that it was kind of just declining, but he's 3-3 in his last 6. You know, Hooker's still in it, and if he beats Gamrot, this is a huge win for him that's going to totally bring him back to the top 5, getting a hometown-ish. I always get the New Zealand, the Kiwis, and the Australians I always get fucking confused. I don't know whose hometown is who, but look, man, you know, what I was going to say is that Hooker was 3-3 since the Poirier fight, you know, and one of those losses is to Islam Makhachev, the fucking champ, and one of them is at featherweight, which was a disaster decision for him. Look, man, Gamrot is going to be trying to take this fight to the ground with all he can. You know, he's going to be putting on the pace, and he's going to be putting on the pressure. And he knows that he doesn't want to stand and bang with Dan. That's playing in his court. He's going to be trying to take him down no matter what. And I think we're going to see Gamrot via decision. I think he's going to be taking down Dan, and probably especially in rounds 2 and 3. I think round 1 is probably going to be the most competitive. And I really want Dan to win this, but I got a, gut feeling that this is going to be Gamrot just trying to take him down and hold him down for a majority of the fight, and good on him, I mean, that's how that's how he needs to get this win. It's not like he's gonna outstrike Dan Hooker. I could be wrong. We have been seeing that a lot the past couple years of the wrestlers outstriking the strikers. It's rare, but shit, man, nothing would surprise me anymore, man. Bilal fucking Muhammad. That's all I'll say. Look, man, I think Gamrot, I just think that's what he's going to do. He's one fight away from being the next title contender, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about it because he's not the most exciting fighter and he has the personality of my plain white door. But look, man, he deserves to be up there. He's ranked number 5 right now. I don't think getting a win over Dan is going to boost him up because you have Tsarukyan next for the title. He's number 4. And then you have Poirier and Gaethje. They're up there. And then Makhachev's the champ. I don't see this fight really elevating Gamrot. It's more so just adding another ranked lightweight to his resume. And it's going to help him get that title shot. I think if he beats Dan, he's one away from getting the next title shot. But it's all about making it there, man. Dan's still in this. I believe Dan is a plus 200, something low. And Gamrot, I think, is a high minus 200, something like that. I don't know. It's going to be on the screen. But it's going to be a good fight. Hopefully. But I'm going to be going with Gamrot. Tai Tuivasa versus Jairinzho Rozenstruik. I feel like I've never said the motherfucker's name out loud. This is going to be a great fight. This is going to be one of those, one of the first couple fights on the main card. And Tai needs a win. He's going to be riding the hometown advantage. He's might be more prone to mistakes that way, but he's going to be riding the hype. And he is 0-4 in his last 4. Shit, man, if he loses 5 in a row, you're seriously questioning, what am I going to do with this guy? Is this going to be the bigger Tony Ferguson? But let's hope not, man, because I'm a Tai fan. I really like the guy, and he really needs this win. And I'm really hoping that he knows how badly he needs this win, because if he loses 5 in a row, man, that really damages your stock. And he's one of the more known names right now in the heavyweight division, and he was on a tear when he first started here, man. He was going on a good fight winning streak, and then he had the fight against Gan. It was competitive, but Gan ultimately took that. And it's been downhill ever since, man. So close to getting a title shot, and now 0-4 in his last 4. It's a brutal fucking game, man. I think, and I'm going to go with Tai. My prediction is going to be Tuivasa. But I know that I shouldn't. I know that I shouldn't be going with Tai, man. I feel like that's the fan in me, but I think he just knows what's at stake, right? I think he does have the power advantage. Not that Rozenstruik can't knock a motherfucker out. He can, and he's been proven to. And he is the favorite in this fight for a reason. It's a decently sizable favorite. But Jairinzho is more of the, technical striker. He does have power. I just think it's a bit slightly less. We've seen more just of that KO brutality from Tuivasa than Rozenstruik, who's been in decisions, a bit more. But Rozenstruik deserves to be the favorite, man. How could you not? I'm sure that this is just the coping phase that Tai fans or just, people that have been watching these fights go through, where it's like, oh no, Tai can do it. Tai's got this. He's just, he's got the power, blah, blah, and then he gets fucked. I mean, dude, he got submitted by Marcin Tybura in the first round, which is not aging well. You know what I mean? And that was his last fight. So who knows what's going to happen, man? I'm rooting for Tai, and I think he's going to get the KO. I think he's going to get the round 1 KO. The bad news is, I think if he doesn't do that, I think he's going to be in trouble. I think if it makes it out of the first, I could see Rozenstruik taking it via decision. Might be a bit of a slower fight after that. I'm not really sure. But this is a banger. This is a great fight. There's a lot on the line for both guys. I think Rozenstruik has been looking great lately. He's been on a tear. And if he gets this win over Tai, Tai's 0-4 in his last 4, but it's still a win. And especially over a ranked guy like Tai, who is, again, more of a well-known name in the heavyweight division. It's going to increase Rozenstruik's stock, and I feel like he's one of the more unknown guys in the division, despite having a shit ton of undeserved, unneeded, and unwanted main events lately. Bro is king of the Apex as of late, and let's hope that's putting to an end. Thank fucking God that they're stopping all the Apex fights. I think it's closing down sometime in a month or two. Thank God. Jesus. Look, I'm going to be going with Tai. I think Tai's going to get the round 1 KO. I think he needs it, but I totally understand that Rozenstruik winning via KO or decision is the more likely outcome. But, you know, I'm picking these guys like, I'm about to pick, you know, my next prediction you're about to see picking the favorite, and I'm picking Gamrot, the favorite, the big favorite, and I'm picking erceg, pretty sizable favorite as well. So I think if one dog is going to take it, I got du Plessis winning, but he's a small enough dog that's kind of like a pick 'em fight. I need an underdog. They always, you know, always one or two of the big dogs end up taking it on the main card. I'm going to go with Tai. I think he's going to get it done, but this is going to age probably terribly. We'll see. Last, but definitely not least, this is a great fight, and this is a super fun fight. Jingliang versus Carlos Prates. This is honestly one of the best fights on the whole card. I think it's a big sleeper fight. This is probably going to be one of Dana's, if you don't know, now you know kind of fights. I mean, I don't see this one going the distance. Especially opening up the card. This Carlos Prates guy, I've only seen 1 or 2 of his fights. You know, I know he's only 3-0 in the UFC, but shit, that he is. He's 3-0. He's 19-6 overall, though, which is a bit concerning. But I was kind of taking a look, and it seems like kind of a bit of his older fights when he was kind of first starting up, and they were against, you know, kind of looking at his record versus their record at the time, it kind of made sense. There was one fight where he just lost to a bum, but it's all right. Look, man, this guy's 3-0 in the UFC right now, all via round 1 or 2 knockout, TKO, whatever the fuck you want to call it. This guy's on a tear, all right? And meanwhile, you have the Leech, and the Leech is great, man. You know, the Leech is super entertaining, great personality, but he hasn't fought in 2 years. He hasn't fought since Tony Ferguson, Nate Diaz card. That was September, I want to say, of 2022. Good Lord, man. That's when we still thought Tony had chances at this shit. You know what I mean? That's how long ago this is. Look, Lee didn't go either way, I should mention, got fucked over on that card. You know, he was going to wear his nice-ass suit to the press conference, a little meme in the community that we all know, man. He didn't get his chance. Let's hope that they're doing Li Jingliang on the presser for this fight so bro could just wear a nice suit and finally get his moment. Even if he gets knocked the fuck out in this fight or loses this fight, at least he got that moment. Hopefully so. I doubt it, but we can hope. Look, man. Li Jingliang has been out of the cage for 2 years, and I think that is definitely going to show. I think we're talking about this main card with a bunch of guys coming off of layoffs. I mean, he has the biggest one, and I think he's going to be the most affected by it out of all the people I mentioned. You know what I mean? He has great durability. You know, he has great cardio. He has the clear experience advantage, and both of these guys can generate great knockout power. We've seen it. But I think, you know, and I don't see this fight going to the ground. I mean, both guys, you know, have kind of the stand and bang kind of mindset. They can take it to the ground. Both these guys can hold their own on the ground unless they're going against really elite grapplers. But other than that, you know, they can hold their own on the ground, but I don't see this fight going to the ground. So I think the weaknesses for Lee in this fight are going to be the lack of activity, for sure. And he leaves himself open. He leaves himself open defensively to some of these big shots. And I think with the guy up and coming, he's young, he's 3-0 UFC, all knockouts, open and fight of the card. Big opportunity. I can see him getting knocked out. I really hope the fuck not. But Prates, on the other hand, he has the age advantage. He has the activity advantage. He's fighting out of the Fighting Nerds camp. And they are all doing insane right now. That's a big thing. That camp has been unbeatable looking lately. And he could be riding that momentum, man. So they got great coaching over there, and that whole team is on a fucking tear. Look, dude. I love Lee. I think he's great, entertaining. I feel for the guy. He hasn't had the best set of luck over the past couple years. He's finally getting this fight. It's a great opportunity for him, but you know, getting up there in age, hasn't been around for the past couple years. I think Prates has the speed advantage. Both guys are powerful, so I wouldn't even call it a power advantage. They both can generate great knockout power, but I don't know, man. I think Prates just has the edge. The slight edges, you know, in kind of everything in this fight. And for that reason, I sadly have to go against Lee, and I'm going to be going with Carlos Prates. And those are my predictions, guys. Those are my predictions. I am putting down bets for every one of the fights. I have a 4-fight parlay with Prates, with Gamrot, with Tuivasa, and with erceg. So let's see how that goes. And then I got money as well on dricus du Plessis. That's a solo bet, though. I'm pretty confident in that one, though. I would say out of all these picks, I'm the most confident in dricus. I know those are the smallest odds, and I know that if I'm wrong, then Izzy just starches him and knocks him out in a round, I'm going to look fucking dumb, but those are my bets. And again, those are pretty much my picks. So thank you guys so very much for watching. I mean, this is going to be a great card. Super entertaining. I thought 304 was a good lineup, but I think this one edges it out. This is a great card. Thank you guys so very much for watching. I appreciate you guys giving me your time. And I hope you guys have a great weekend, man, watching these fun fights. And all the smoke, MMA, thank you guys so very much for watching. I really appreciate y'all.